Welcome back to the Journeys in Business series. I'm Jess, owner of Jess Creatives, and in this series, I'm sitting down with entrepreneurs to hear about their journeys in business and lessons they have learned. Hey Kat, thanks so much for joining me.
Hey Jess, thanks so much for having me here.
Yes.
Virtually.
So to get us started, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us about your business?
Sure. Well, I basically teach creative introverts how to work with their natural personality types, preferences, skills, basically to make a business creating what they love. So that's usually designers, illustrators, jewelry makers, and online business owners who are lacking the confidence in getting word out about what they do and might feel a bit uncomfortable in talking about what they do, self-promotion, networking, and all that stuff.
Yes, I'm a little bit of an introvert myself, so I'm sure I have lots to learn from you. How did you get started with teaching specifically introverts?
Yeah, it's funny because I didn't even know what an introvert was up until a few 2 years ago, maybe.
Yeah.
And I'd been a very shy kid. Like my whole family, well, my mum and dad are quite introverted, and I was just always told as a kid, you're the quiet one. Why don't you speak up more and do all these things? And I was like, okay, that's just me. Until I went to uni, and I guess I made friends with people who made me feel comfortable, and I was like, oh, actually, I'm quite outgoing. I can do this thing.
Yeah.
And but when it came to, sort of left my agency job. I worked at a design agency in 2013, and just decided, oh, I'm going to try and make it as a freelance illustrator, set up my own business and all this stuff. But whenever I'd go to a networking event or just anything that required me to be around a lot of people for a while, I was fine at first, and then I would get, just really worn out, and
Yeah.
I just couldn't really explain it. Or why I'd sort of start to clam up, whereas other people was kind of getting more and more jazzed up. So a friend of mine just said to me, oh, that's because you're an introvert. And I was like, well, hang on, I'm not shy. And he's like, no, that's not it. It's
Yeah.
not that you're shy. It's an energy thing. I was
Yeah.
like, ooh, let me, so I basically just researched it more, really got into the whole Myers-Briggs stuff.
Mm-hmm.
This is the way of kind of explaining, you know, these are my preferences, this is what I'm good at, this is what I might need to work on, just as a rule of thumb. Quite
Yeah.
helpful.
Mm-hmm.
And I started making these connections while I was talking to other illustrators and just creatives in general. A lot of us, a disproportionate amount, seem to be introverts.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is so fascinating. And I was like, why don't I just look into this a bit further? And at the time, because I'd kind of worked this out and I'd stopped going to networking events, I was using Facebook groups a lot, and found that there were Facebook groups for introverts, but no one on those were really talking about business. It was more like sharing memes.
Yeah.
And no one really on the businessy kind of sites that groups I was on were talking about, the mindset that goes along with being an introvert in business. And yeah, so I just started this Facebook group called the League of Creative Introverts, and it kind of spiraled from that, and I started blogging more about my experiences, and it's been a very oh, I didn't know where this would go. It wasn't long ago that I was making pet portraits, which was what I was doing before. So
I love that. Do you still do your illustration on the side, on top of the creative introverts?
yeah, it's totally a hobby thing right now. And I think that's where I'm comfortable with it being. It's something that was actually stressing me out a little bit. I was like, oh, this isn't fun anymore. And feeling guilty around that. And I was like, well, and it also didn't feel that important. Whereas now I'm sort of quite driven by what I'm doing, because I'm getting emails from people who are like, oh, you're helping me. And I'm like, that is it. You don't really get that from someone who's like, oh, you drew a nice picture of a cat. Which is still great, and I still enjoy it. So it's definitely my fun thing.
Yeah, that's really cool that you still do it. I used to actually do photography and design, and I found over time that I was enjoying photography less and less. And it was like you, it was becoming more of just this like, I don't want to do this. It's not fun anymore. And I found for myself, it was too much pressure, and that was why I wasn't enjoying it. And so I had done photography growing up as just a hobby. Like I never thought I was going to do photography as a service. It was just what I did. I took pictures, I entered them in the fair. I did yearbook, like I just did it as a hobby, and then eventually started offering it. And so it took some time, but I finally was like, I'm not going to offer this as a service anymore. Like my design work was really dominating on my time anyway. I wasn't getting a lot of photography clients, but to officially say like, I'm not offering photography anymore, it was hard, but like, it's just when you don't enjoy it, you need to like take it off your plate and just do it as a hobby, like you said.
Yeah, exactly. And it takes that pressure off. And
Yes.
I mean, I think we're getting told quite a lot now that, you've got to focus on this one thing, which I'm in two minds about. But for sure, sometimes it just feels like when it feels like a relief to drop something, you're like, that's when I know it's worth dropping.
Yes, exactly. So what's your favorite part about working with these creative introverts?
I guess it's on like as the big scale, like I just love having the freedom over my day. And I think that was partly what got me to leave my agency job, because I mean, I really did. I say it quite a lot, but I just felt like why am I struggling so much with the commute and the 9 to 5 or 6 or 7, whatever it was we needed to work to. And I think now looking back on it, it was part of being an introvert and really just finding that work environment a struggle, just very energy draining. Whereas, I'm just sitting in my tiny little room and I'm just like, well, this is for me a great working environment. And then it's connecting with all these people online who are going through the same things and who are getting helped by these things I'm doing. And I love to write. I didn't kind of connect it. I didn't think I'd ever be doing it so much. I think a few things that I never thought I'd be doing was teaching, writing, or any kind of like promotional stuff, which is basically my whole life now. So it's quite funny that like, or like speaking, like public speaking is something that I was always, that's just never going to be me. Whereas now it's like, this is one of my big goals for the year. And it's funny how things change, but really it is just having that freedom to do the stuff that I love, and actually while doing it impact other people.
Yeah.
Lovely.
Yeah. I'm like you. I never thought that I would have a YouTube channel or a podcast. Like this time last year, or even more like in 2015, I guess, it was like, oh no, I don't do video. No. Like that's not me. And then now it's like one of my favorite things. And like my podcast is so fun to connect with so many people. And it's like, it's just surprising how things change. Or once you try them, and you're like, oh, I actually do enjoy this. Why was I so scared to do this again?
This is the thing. And I've started to think that if I do feel like there are certain types of fear, and if I feel that level of fear where I'm like, it's that thing that I'm putting off, but I can't forget it, that is a sign that I need to try it and just do it, because that ends up being something that you love in the end, often.
Exactly. So what would you say is your big why? What drives you?
I guess it's a weird, I was thinking, this really makes me think, because I journal about this kind of stuff quite a lot. I love, I don't know if you know, like The Artist's Way, Julia Cameron book. Yeah, and she talks about morning pages. So I'm always journaling about like, what's my why? And I think one of the things that always comes up is this idea that it's like going back in time to your younger self, and or at least like the times where I've been struggling with something, and to kind of like erase that. If I can teach people the stuff that I wish I'd known, it's kind of like it never happened to me. So it's like this Back to the Future thing where I get to do that, helping people, but it's kind of like living vicariously through them. Does that make sense? I think that's what all teachers are trying to do. They're like, this is the stuff that I wish I knew. And if I can share it with people, it just makes you feel good.
Yeah,
honestly.
exactly. That's
Yeah.
what, because you mentioned earlier, you love the part of your business about impacting people. And
Yeah.
I definitely relate to that. Like, it's really cool to hear from people. I'm like, oh my gosh, I really needed to hear that. And like just earlier this morning, I had a comment on one of my most recent interviews on my podcast, but it was on my YouTube channel. And she was like, I love that you do these. I started listening to your YouTube channel several months ago when you were just doing these quick little 2-minute videos. Like I do a lot of just quick tutorials. And she was like, and I just would watch them and always wanted more from you. And now I get these like 30-minute interviews with you, like with you and one of your colleagues. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, I mean, she didn't like talk about impact, but it was just cool that she's like, I wanted to hear more from you. And I was like, from me? You're talking,
Yeah.
hear more from me?
But this is the thing, and it's taking the time. So it's not just like she thought, because I'm sure there are loads of people just thinking, oh, I
Yeah.
really love that this is this, I love Jess, but not taking that time to actually message you. So I think that is what it is, and it really is. It's lovely, and I was kind of doing it before I'd ever had my first email from somebody,
Mm-hmm.
but just sending out like emails of appreciation to people who
Yes.
I'm like, they will probably never reply to me. That's totally fine. But
Yeah.
I just need them to know that they've done something that has made me
Yeah.
happy.
Yeah, one of my kind of mini goals of 2017 is to respond to more email, like the newsletters that I get, to
Yes.
respond to them more, because sometimes I'm like, no one ever replies to my emails. And I'm like, but I never reply to emails, so how can I expect people?
Right.
So I'm like, the few emails that I do get or comments on videos or whatever, like that, they mean so much to me. And I'm like, I need to be better about communicating, because like you said, there are lots of people who probably think the things like, oh my gosh, this is great or whatever, but they don't actually communicate it. And so
Yeah.
I think we need to be better about just taking that time to like comment or just send a quick reply about like, this was awesome, thank you so
Yeah.
much. Just a little
That's it.
can mean so much to people.
And we think that, I mean, I hope that people, when they read the emails that I send, aren't just thinking this is like this faceless thing. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it should feel like a conversation.
Yeah.
I think Ramit Sethi, do you know his stuff?
I
But
don't
he
think
always talks
so.
about like writing these emails, and he'll get like, they're quite controversial, but he'll get replies back with people who just like yell abuse at him or email abuse at him,
Mm.
not thinking he's gonna respond, and then he does. He's like, okay, so let's talk about this, and they're like, oh,
You want to have
okay,
a conversation? We're gonna talk.
right. And either way, it's just it's not a one-sided conversation, and I'd like to proliferate that idea a bit more.
Yeah, yeah. So if you could go back to when you first started and tell yourself something in that first week or month, what would you tell yourself?
Yeah, I think that again, this is something that I probably still need to tell myself today, but asked for help. And
Yes.
again, I think this is something to do with being a bit of an introvert, and I think we struggle to ask for help just because we process so much in our heads,
Mm-hmm.
and we think our ideas through, like, and they're like all laid out in our heads, and we forget, oh, I haven't actually spoken about this thing. And you know, I would go full steam ahead with things, thinking, oh, no one wants to hear about this. And if I just kind of started speaking about it, I might have been able to get help earlier, or somebody would have pointed something out that I was probably overlooking, which I definitely was, because we all make mistakes. And I just think this whole, like, I was very proud of being very self-reliant, but it was definitely a hindrance in a lot of
Mm-hmm.
ways.
Yeah,
And it
I
wasn't
think
until like,
I love that what you said about we feel proud about being able to do all of this on our own. Like, I think sometimes I even still struggle with that. Like, look at all of this that I'm doing and I don't have that much help. But then sometimes I'm like, I really need help. I think it's just, it creates more room in your schedule and it saves you stress. And it's a little more fun to actually work with people instead of just being like, look at me, I'm trying to be Superwoman and complete all of
yeah,
these things.
that's it. And like wherever it is, I mean, whether it's an online community, I started a meetup group, and that's really nice, just have people in real life as well.
Yeah.
I got a mentor, a coach, I joined a mastermind, like all these things which I thought, oh, it's just a waste of time. I know this stuff, or I can teach myself all the stuff.
Yeah.
It's nothing compares to just having a person to bounce stuff off with.
Yeah,
I really believe
exactly. Is there anything that you wish you had done differently?
No, see, this is one thing. I'm not like one for regretting things. Definitely, like, all those mistakes that I've made, they obviously all happened for a reason, which I never thought of was true at the time. But I've kind of started to like think about things that way. I guess, like, for sure, just doing things earlier. Like, I wish I'd discovered like the practice of gratitude earlier.
Yeah.
Because that's one thing that I can rely on to snap me back to if I'm having like a slump or a bad day. As soon as I start like actually appreciating things, it's just crazy. So that would have been a thing.
Yeah, no, that's great. I'm curious, because I'm an introvert myself, if you had one tip to help introverts like be better in business or create a better or whatever, if you had like one tip for an introvert, what would you say?
I think that's brilliant, because there are like lots of different things, and I think a lot of things do come down to just questioning your fears. And I'm not saying like, oh, introverts are the only people who face fears, but it is that idea that if we can just admit we've got them, and I choose to like journal stuff out, and again I'm just kind of like, okay, this is the thing that I'm clearly scared of right now. Is it just because, and I'm not like, there's a danger of just using introversion as an excuse. If I was to say, oh well, I'm an introvert, so I can't possibly go to this event, and that is a cop out. Like, I totally get that. Like, I'm going to have to take that time the next day to like balance my energy. I talk about that quite a lot, of just taking that time to to recover and like have some quiet time. But really, it all just comes down to, is this a fear that I can move towards, or is it something that like that I'm genuinely scared of, which is like, I'm not going to be like, okay, well today I should go bungee jumping just because I'm scared to do it. But I think we know. I think deep down we know when we're putting something off.
Yeah. Then that makes sense. And it's just, you have to fight that fear sometimes and just launch or just do it. Like, that's what whenever I started my YouTube channel, and I was so scared of being on video, and like talking to a lot of video and YouTubers now, they all say like, it doesn't matter if your setup is fancy, or if you're wearing t-shirts or nice clothes, or if you have good lighting, if you have an iPhone, like, it doesn't matter. And I didn't hear a lot of that until after I started. I heard a little bit of it before, which kind of helped me fight that fear, but it was just like, this is like, I know it would be good for my business. And like, I just kept thinking about it and hearing about it, and I was like, it would be really good for my business. Okay, like, I'm gonna do it.
You pull the trigger. Do you think it's an element of like perfectionism? Because I know that this is something that I talk to my group a lot about. Just, I think we overthink things a lot as introverts, and I think just generally, but it is that thinking that, oh, just one more thing, or if I just tweak this a little bit more. And I think as a creative as well, like, we want things just to look spot on.
Especially like as a designer and a perfectionist, I'm always like, this has to look really good. Like, that's why I've always been like, I switched up my like setup of where I shoot my videos, and got a new camera, and like keep thinking about like, oh, I'll buy better lights or a better camera. And my husband's like, but I thought you said like it doesn't matter what camera you use on YouTube. And I'm like, I know, but like, I'm a perfectionist. And like,
I love that he's calling you out on it. That's brilliant.
He's like, oh, wait a minute. I mean, which is funny, because he does video at his day job, so like, you would think he would be like, yeah, like, let's get a cool camera, but he's like, it doesn't have to be perfect, just put it out there, it'll be fine, and so it's like, I know, but I'm a perfectionist, and so I want like the lighting to be just right, and the quality to be just right, you know, and
this nice like backdrop, which again is something I really need to work on myself. But, yeah.
Yeah. But so what are you working on for 2017?
Well, it's funny, we've been talking a little bit about emails, and this is part of the thing that I've been trying to build. It's an online program called the Email Answer, and it's basically designed for introverts who aren't seeing results from blogging and social media content, and they definitely aren't going to be like picking up the phone. I mean, that's just something that it's like my phone is just not used for making phone calls.
Nope.
And I know that email is just, it's basically not a sexy topic, but it's just the truth that for me anyway, like just writing individual emails to people, I'm not talking about like email marketing. This is literally like, you know, sending an email to like a creative director or someone you want to get press coverage. And so I just thought I'd put it out there and just see if that would help people in the boat that I was in, and that I'm really like grateful that I sort of cracked this email thing, which is just basic. It's copywriting effectively, but
no,
so
that sounds awesome, because like I don't think I haven't seen a lot about just the one-on-one emails, especially for introverts, but because I have been, one of my goals for 2017 is to be more visible, which means I'm going to be pitching a lot of people, which scares me because I'm an introvert, and I'm like, that means I have to like email people specifically.
and but this is the thing, you're excellent at writing, so this is the thing, and I think it's like it's our superpower and we're not using it, but actually email is our like best thing for doing. But we're also never taught it. I mean, think about, like, we're never taught how to email somebody at school.
This is true.
But it's like a life skill. I'm starting to realize.
Yeah, no, that's really awesome. So where can we connect with you to find out more about this new launch?
Cool. Well, everything will be at thecreativeintrovert.com. You know, it's all there, and on all the social medias. Creative Intro is my handle there.
Awesome. Thank you so much for chatting with me today.
Thank you, Jess. Really enjoyed it.